Hello everyone! Hopefully today I can help you get a recovery certificate for travel if you tested positive on a PCR test or an antigen test. So why get a COVID-19 recovery certificate? So some countries might not let you in if you're unvaccinated, but they will let you in if you have proof of recovery. So if you have had COVID-19 in the last 90 to 180 days, then you might be able to enter some of these countries with a recovery certificate. Alternatively, you could avoid having to take a pre-departure test. For some countries, you can show proof of recovery to avoid having to take a test before your departure. This way, you avoid the hassle and you obviously don't have to pay to take a test. So, rules on these certificates vary for each country, and I will be making a video very soon on what country you can enter with proof of recovery. But first, before I fully get into how to get a recovery certificate, everything I mention I will link down below, and I will do my best to keep this video updated. Also, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on any of my socials, or you can ask them in the comments down below. If this video helps, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like and if you could hit the subscribe button. So, with that, let's get on to the video. Okay, so like I said at the beginning of the video, you can enter some countries with just proof of recovery and avoid the need to take a test, avoid having to show proof of vaccination, avoid having to do a lot of things. So, for example, if you are unvaccinated and you want to travel to Spain, you can do so if you have tested positive in the last 180 days. You can do this by getting a recovery certificate, and in this video I will tell you how. Or alternatively, if you're trying to travel somewhere like America and you don't want to take the pre-departure test, you can get a recovery certificate, and this will replace having to take a pre-departure test. So, how do you get one of these travel recovery certificates? So I am going to be talking about this from a very UK perspective if you are a UK citizen, or if you tested positive in the UK, or if you're travelling from the UK. It can be helpful if you're not from the UK, but I'm just saying this is from a UK perspective, and a lot of things I'm about to mention is purely about being from the UK with the NHS and stuff like that. So in the UK, the only way to get an NHS recovery certificate is if you tested positive on an NHS PCR test. So if you did test positive on an NHS PCR test, on your NHS COVID app under COVID Pass, you will have something that looks like this, which is just like all of your vaccines, but at the top it says recovered from COVID-19, and it has all the information underneath. So if you have that, then that will pretty much do you for most places. There are some exceptions, like the US. You can't just show this to get into the US. That will not be accepted. You will need another certificate, but to get into most places, yeah, this is fine. But now, obviously, PCR tests are no longer free on the NHS, and neither are lateral flows, but obviously lateral flow tests are a lot cheaper, and if you're lucky, you still might have some in your household. And remember the guidance: if you do test positive on a lateral flow, you do not need to take a PCR test. So whether you've recently tested positive on a lateral flow, or if you've just tested positive on a lateral flow, then you can get a recovery certificate. You do not have to get a PCR test. So for proof of recovery, most countries will accept either a positive PCR test or a positive antigen test. Obviously, it varies on destination, so just check. But like I said previously, registering a positive lateral flow in the UK will not get you one of those NHS COVID Pass certificates. In order to get a recovery certificate, you will unfortunately have to purchase a private one. Prices do vary based on the company you use. Most range from about £60 to about £75 or £80. But I found this company, and I've recently just used this company, which is why I've decided to talk about it, called The Healthify, and I will link all their details below. But basically, you can get one recovery certificate with them for only £49. And what's really good about this is the more certificates you purchase, the cheaper the price becomes. So if you want 2 certificates, it's £79, and if you're like a family of 4, you can get 4 certificates for £100. Now I know this might sound expensive, but trust me, they are one of the cheapest companies out there to get a recovery certificate with. And I am going to give you a couple of scenarios as to why you might purchase a recovery certificate, and obviously my reasons for doing so as well. So one I have mentioned a little bit is, say you are unvaccinated and you want to travel to Spain. At the moment, if you aren't from the EU, you can only enter Spain if you're vaccinated or if you have proof of recovery. You can purchase one of these recovery certificates and it will be enough to get you into Spain. There's a load of countries listed on their website that accept recovery certificates, which again I will link down below. Or another scenario, say you've just tested positive and you're travelling many times in the next couple of months, say like 5 times, and you need a pre-departure test to enter each of those countries. By the time you've paid for a pre-departure test for each country, say you're going 5 times, that's like, depending on what tests you need and where you purchase your test from, that could be like £100. In that time, you could have just got a recovery certificate for £49 and just use that each time you travel. It does depend on where you're travelling to. Some countries allow 90 days for recovery. Other countries do allow you to be within 180 days. So again, just check before you travel. But it could be a much cheaper way of travelling for you if you are planning on travelling multiple times in the next couple of months. And this method can also take away a lot of like worry or hassle. So if you're travelling and you need to take a pre-departure test, then you're going to be extremely careful in that week leading up to when you travel. If you're using proof of recovery to get into a country, then not having to take a test does take away that worry of what if you do test positive on that pre-departure test. Your trip will go ahead. You don't have to worry about testing. You don't have to worry about timing issues or if something goes wrong with your test, because you just don't need to take a test for most places. So I did say I would bring up the US because the US has to be different and can be a little bit confusing. So if you're planning to travel to the US, you're able to just show your positive result, but on top of that, you will need a recovery certificate which confirms that you have recovered from Covid-19. And this has to be signed by a health professional. So this kind of leads me on to why I chose proof of recovery. So I'm actually travelling to the US twice next month with my family, and me and my family have actually just recently recovered from Covid-19. So to travel to the US, if you're going down the testing route, then the test must be a supervised test. Now again, these range in prices, but say it's like 20 quid. So since we're travelling to the US twice, each person will need 2 tests. Now by the time you work this out, it's cheaper just to use the Healthify and get a family lot of recovery certificates for £100. And plus, it does eliminate a lot of worry for us about testing positive when we travel or when we're away. And we don't have to worry about taking the test that one day before travel. Like I said, I can't fault this company. I recommend this company to you. It's cheap, it's a good service, it's reliable, it's easy, and it's super fast. So the form is actually really easy to complete, and I'll go through that in just a second. But once you've completed the form and you've paid, this is what you're going to get. You probably can't really see with the light. I'll put a digital one over my face in just a second. But yeah, that's what you're going to get. It has all the relevant information you need. It has your name, your date of birth, your passport number. It even has a QR code. And then the important part that a lot of countries ask for, especially the US, is it says recovered from COVID-19. And then at the bottom, it's obviously signed by a doctor or a GP. It literally has everything you need. So let me quickly just go through the form just to show you how easy it is and what you need and what I put in. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete, I would say. So let's look at the family one. So you're going to get onto their website homepage, which looks like this, and you can scroll down and here's the list of prices. So let's do the family one for £99. So you're going to click order now, and it's going to take you to the form to fill out. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to put in the names of each person who you're getting a recovery certificate for. So it's going to ask you for patient 1's full name, patient 2's full name, patient 3's full name, and patient 4's full name. Obviously, if you're doing a singular one, it's only going to ask you for your name. One thing to note, please try to remember what person you put as what number. You can always scroll back up and check, but just don't get those mixed around when we get onto the next bit. So then you're going to get onto contact email address. You're going to want to put in your email address, make sure it is correct, as this is the email that you will receive the certificate. You also need to put your telephone number in, and then it wants your address, so put your full address in. And then since we're using this for travel, you're going to select the purpose of the COVID recovery certificate is for international travel. And that means you have to fill out the next box, which asks you which country you're traveling to. If you're traveling to multiple countries, you can list all of the countries. Or you can just put one, so you can just put USA, or you can just put Spain, or you can put Spain and the USA. And then this next part is what I mean by remember who is what number, because you're going to have to match the date of births to the number of the names you put above. So patient 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the same thing is going to ask you when each of you tested positive. So when did patient 1 test positive? I tested positive on the 4th of April. And then it's going to ask you for 2, 3, and 4. And then what type of test did you take? So you can select multiple, so PCR, lateral flow, rapid antigen test. Select whichever tests all of you took. And then the next part, it wants you to upload an image of the positive test result. So this is what I attached. And then it also wants a picture of your passport photo page. And then once you've uploaded them, it will load and it will look like this. Obviously, I didn't upload my passport, but remember to upload your passport. Then it's just going to ask you a few questions. So it asks if you've had any symptoms of COVID in the last 5 days. By selecting no, this shows that you have recovered from COVID. And then the last one, have you been advised to isolate, or do you or any of the patients applying for the COVID recovery certificate have a medical condition that may prevent you from travelling safely? And then underneath that, there's a box where you can add anything else that you think they should be aware of. Like it says at the bottom, an explanation of the submitted documents, or any comments about your symptoms, or any questions you have. And then it says what's next, and it explains the process. So they can issue a recovery certificate as soon as 2 hours. And then underneath that, you have some statements that you have to agree to. I'm not going to read each one out. And then you can click Pay Now. And it will take you to the payment part. You're going to want to put your name in, your email in, and then obviously your card number, the expiry date, and the CVC. And then once you've paid, you can click submit and submit the form. So yeah, like I said, super easy. I think I got my certificate within 2 hours of submitting it. So like I said, it's super quick and easy. So yeah, I would also recommend that you do bring with you your positive test result, whether that's an email or a separate document, just to confirm that you did have a positive test. Even though this certificate should be enough, just have it just in case. Like I said, the US, you will need the proof of the positive test. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything with this. Like I said, I travelled to the US in 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks by the time you're watching this. And I will be filming my experience, and I will make a video on it when I reach America. So expect a personal experience video very soon. And like I said at the start, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. You can ask them on any of my social medias. Don't forget to follow. And you can also ask them down below in the comments. I will link all of the Healthify's information down below too. And I really hope this video helped you. If it did, please give it a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe and happy travelling!